those events as we possibly can on the birthday of our nation's 250th year of independence. And so this is something that we're really excited about. We're going to be offering opportunities for folks to be engaged. You all may have already seen some of those opportunities. You're probably going to definitely see some decorations around campus because we want to do our part in celebrating America's 250th anniversary for our independence. So we also have another announcement coming up, and this is date to be determined, but we are going to have an Ellington Farm Day. So what we have done throughout, well, when I say we, as a kid, I actually, as a 4-H'er and as a member of FFA, we actually went out and hosted county farm days. And so this was an opportunity for school systems to bring, out maybe their 3rd graders or their 4th graders or whatever else and come out and see farm animals, maybe visit a farm. And what we have recognized is that the popularity and the opportunity of some of those events has sort of waned over the last several years. And what we wanted to do was, we thought, well, we're basically the voice of Tennessee agriculture. We have this beautiful 200+ acre campus. Why don't we host an event like that ourselves? And so we're going to partner with all of our commodity groups, with all kinds of different farm and commodity friends from across the state. And we're going to host that here at Ellington. And probably are going to be asking for several folks to help assist in that process. And so certainly want to make sure that you're aware of that activity coming up, and we're going to share information about that as much as we possibly can. Is that really distracting to you all? I do, but I don't. Then why don't we cancel this? Yeah. It's not us. This is so crazy. There we go. Yeah, leave that one on. All right. Use the whole thing. Well, let's try that. Is that better? That's better. All right. My apologies for that. Just trying to get through. All right. We do also have lots of interns with us. So if you're a new intern with us today, we'd like to have you all stand and we'd like to recognize you all real quick. We appreciate you all being here, and we know that the interns, you're going to learn a lot. We're certainly going to try to do our best to make sure that you have opportunities here in each of the divisions and each of the sections that you all are going to be embedded with. We're really looking forward to that. I will say, got the opportunity to look over several of those resumes of the intern hopefuls, and we have a great class of interns. So if you all have an intern that's going to be working with you in your section or in your division, would certainly encourage you to find great ways to incorporate them in your daily tasks, let them understand a little bit more about your job. We also will have an intern, Jamie Jordan, in my office. She's not able to be with us. She's on international travel at the moment. But I think we have a total of 23, somewhere in there, 23 interns this year. It's our largest class of interns that we've ever had.
Brent Smith
is now exiting.
All right. So I did want to go over a budget review with us as well. Last year when we made our presentation, I think really it was in the fall, had more feedback about the budget than anything else. Folks said, hey, this is great to hear a little bit about where we're at as a department and sort of what the initiatives are and our budget priorities. And so I wanted to run through, this is just the first of, I think, 4 or 5 slides about our budget. But if you look at our total 26 budget, what you see is it's a pretty large budget. So it takes a few dollars to operate this place around here. So $347 million. You look at the breakdown on that, so 73% state funding. The General Assembly certainly appreciates the job that we are doing, and that is in service to the governor. Obviously, we're an executive branch agency, But the General Assembly, as a legislative branch agency, has to determine the funding for our executive functions. Obviously, they feel very strongly about the services that we're providing and are providing us with a great deal of resources. And we need to always make sure that every dollar that we handle and every dollar that we spend as an agency, every dollar that we require as an agency, came from somebody, came from a Tennessean. And so we want to be very, very clear about that and make sure that that's always something that's top of mind. We've been given a lot of resources. We need to make sure and show a great deal of effort as a result of those. So 20% federal funding and then 7% other revenue. So when we look at our additional funding that we've received for our 26-27 budget, what we see is we've seen an increase of a little over $13 million, and that's broken down in some operational and then also some capital projects, and we'll talk about those, and then also 18 new full-time employee positions. So when we look at our, we're trying to really boost our wildfire preparedness. So what we have seen over time is that we, as a state, 52, arguably 53% forested as a state, all of our land mass, we are subject to a great deal of influence if we were to have some really devastating wildfire outbreaks. What we want to do is make sure that folks are as prepared as they possibly can, that we as a state are prepared, but also that we're preparing others, and we're trying to educate them on ways that they can prepare their homes, businesses, other structures, and other types of investments that they have from the impact of wildfire. And so what we're seeing is that those wildfire risks are actually increasing over time, and what we're going to try to do is reduce those as much as we possibly can. So we've received, again, 9 full-time employees at a cost of $1.3 million, and these are going to be our forestry wildfire resiliency team members. What you can see everywhere you see in the rest of this presentation, an R or an NR. Recurring is the R, and that means that money just continues to come to us as a department year over year. And then that non-recurring means that it's a one-time allowance of money that's being put toward an initiative. So we also recognize that the amount of people that we have in the state of Tennessee continues to increase as well. And Dr. Travis has told us for the last couple of years, we got to have more help. We have more businesses to inspect. We have more things that need our attention. We have more places to go and things to do. And we finally were able to convince the General Assembly this year that that increased need really needed to be able to increase the number of full-time positions. We were given sort of an opportunity to increase that number a year or two ago, but we had to justify the need for those folks. We've certainly more than justified the need for those, and we've now been given, again, funding for 9 full-time employees to be added as well. And so those are going to be opportunities for us to, again, restore consumer and industry service inspectors to the level that we think is necessary, which is also something that is a core value for us. So looking through the rest of our budget overview, we continue to have great partnerships that lead not only to opportunities for us, but also these partners and also the agriculture industry as a whole. A couple of the initiatives that I wanted to share with you that we're really proud of. One of those is actually the Representative Johnny Shaw, Tennessee Agriculture Innovation and Education Initiative. And so that's a mouthful, but in essence, Representative Shaw, who I served with in the House of Representatives for 10 years, is a gentleman from West Tennessee that has certainly been an advocate for agriculture his entire career. All the time that he was in the General Assembly, I think except 1 year, he served on the Agriculture Committee and was certainly very interested in agricultural issues. Upon leaving the General Assembly, he had an idea that he wanted to make sure that the department had adequate funds for us to continue educating students specifically about the importance of agriculture and also to get them interested in being the next generation of agriculture innovators. And so he has asked for this funding, actually asked for $2 million of recurring funding. The General Assembly gave $1 million. And if you think, well, that's kind of cheap on behalf of the General Assembly, the General Assembly hardly ever gives funds away in this manner. And so to receive $1 million of recurring funding is a really, really big deal. And so we're going to be able to utilize this fund to be able to, again, introduce, further educate, try to hopefully develop in the hearts of some of these students a career in agriculture and also in agriculture innovation. And so this is going to be a great opportunity for us. Hopefully very soon you'll start hearing about the ways that we're going to utilize these funds. We also, and I don't know if we have any of our partners from Cultivate. Is anybody here from Cultivate? I don't see anybody at the moment. But if you have not visited the Cultivate farm, just right down the hill, right over here, would certainly encourage you all to do this. This is an opportunity for us to make a claim to all of the other departments of agriculture across the United States. We're the only Department of Agriculture that is actually housed on a working farm. And so Cultivate gives us that opportunity to move forward with that statement. And Cultivate also not only is great as a talking point that we have this working farm, but just as importantly, really far more importantly, they're giving opportunities to folks who have been involved with the justice system and are now coming out of the justice system and to learn some of these skills relative to agriculture, fruit and vegetable production, and it's a really, really good program. So I would encourage you all to not only visit, potentially volunteer some time if you have any interest in doing that, but also they have things for sale quite often as well. So they have a store down there. They were selling flowers for Mother's Day a couple weeks ago, so certainly encourage you all to interact with them as much as you can. Also, the Farm to Tap initiative. And excuse me, I will note, the Johnny Shaw funding recurring, the Cultivate funding also recurring, and then another recurring fund is this $100,000 to Farm to Tap. So Farm to Tap is an initiative that is not really housed within the Department of Agriculture, but it's certainly something that we have tried to help facilitate over the years, but it is the conversion of commodities grown in the state and then converted over to brewed products. And so this Farm to Tap has been something that has been funded by the General Assembly sort of haphazardly over the last 4 or 5 years, but now they've got $100,000 worth of recurring funding. Those are going to be pass-through dollars from the Department of Agriculture to the Brewers Guild. We also have $1.5 million that's going to be pass-through dollars from us to the Tennessee Association of Fairs. Now, this is non-recurring, but this is a huge opportunity for us to help fairs, county fairs all across the state, to help build the infrastructure that they need, to help add in more agricultural education exhibits, to just try to help bring new life back to the county fairs. If you all have a county fair, I would certainly also encourage you all to visit that and to be a participant with the county fairs. We're firm believers that county fairs and our Wilson County Tennessee State Fair also a great, great opportunity for us as agriculture to interact with the non-agricultural public that's out there. And so we are trying to do all that we can to encourage the county fairs as well. Then $250,000 to Urban Roots, which is a not-for-profit that helps bring inner city kids into interaction with agriculture and helps them to learn agricultural skills. Great organization. This is the first year that I think they've received that funding, but it's being funded $250,000 on a non-recurring basis. So to get back into a little bit more of the details relative to our capital projects, so we have received $1.1 million for the Pinson seedling cooler replacement. For those of y'all who are in the Division of Forestry, that'll mean a lot more to you all than it might to some of the other employees with the department. But this is something that Heather had brought forward as a priority, and the General Assembly and the Governor's Office saw to fund it this year, and we certainly appreciate that. And then also, we have this $6 million worth of funding that was given to us really to start studying the replacement of the Porter Building and the Ivy Laboratory. So what we're seeing is that our desire from the market to have us perform laboratory services really beginning to maybe potentially outpace the facilities that we have available. And for those of y'all who work in Porter, you recognize we've had a lot of ongoing maintenance issues. We're trying to correct those. But we do think that some partnerships in other laboratory services, a new building, new opportunities, then repurposing that Porter space is going to be a good opportunity for us. What we see is that this building has been listed in the top 3 For the State Building Commission for the last couple of years, what that indicates is the State Building Commission is looking very, very seriously at probably helping us to replace that laboratory facility. And for those of y'all who work in the laboratory, I'm sure this will be a pretty exciting time. I know it is for Dr. Travis. Every time I talk to him, I see a little sparkle in his eye begin to develop. But this $6 million is really just to perform the studies to say, what would we like to have? Why do we need it? What services could we offer that maybe we aren't offering right now? And there's an abundance of those. And so what we're going to try to do is make the best of this $6 million so that we can receive the new laboratory within the next couple of years. Other items of interest. So our long-term vacancy reduction across the state with 67 full-time positions. Agriculture did not participate in this reduction exercise. Actually, we were one of the few agencies that net gained positions. So again, we have justified our full-time positions very well, and actually the General Assembly is recognizing that we need to have more folks to help us perform those services. And then also employee investment. This might be the one slide or the one part of the slide that everybody has a real distinct interest in. So pay for performance has been given a $33 million recurring increase in the pool effective on July 1, 2026. So what we're recognizing is that our pay for performance, and listen, as I've gone across the state and met with a lot of different employees, this is one of the concerns is that, hey, we hear that pay for performance is going away, or hey, we hear that they're not going to fund pay for performance this year. That's just not the case, and this is evidence of that. Unfortunately, the group health insurance rate is increasing. We don't know all the details on that. But thankfully, we do have a state that sees fit to try to help as much as they can in offsetting the cost of that health insurance for us, but there was a rate increase that was incurred. All right, moving on. We're going to run through some of these division highlights really quick. And some of y'all may say, why are we going through all these division highlights? And part of it is because we have divisions that are doing really, really great work. I want to acknowledge those, but I also want to make sure that for those of you all who say, well, I'm not part of animal health. Well, we're going to give you a little background on what's going on there. If you all have not been watching, we are dangerously close to having the New World screwworm potentially come into the United States. I don't even want to speak that out loud. We hope that never happens. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is that New World screwworm has come within, several miles of the border between Mexico and the United States. We've had a couple of cases that have shown up in the United States. They've not necessarily been cases that we've had to be very worried about. But in essence, we're on very, very high alert right now for New World screwworm. That said, Dr. Beatty is trying to prepare as much as we possibly can. This is one of these foreign animal diseases, or in this case, foreign animal insects that can have an impact on our livestock industry. Certainly trying to keep that at bay. If there is a detection that is made, we're already ready and prepared to respond as quickly as possible. Also, I want to just note, we have every year this effort to try to televise and to get out information to all of the 4-H and FFA students and other folks who are showing livestock across the state of Tennessee and really around the United States. We've kicked off a new campaign called Know Before You Show, and this is an effort to try to educate folks as to what are the things that are expected before an animal travels potentially from the farm to the fair or from a farm to a foreign state. What are the protocols that are necessary, how to inspect that animal, and how to make sure that animals are not impacted by the disease of one operation. So this is a great opportunity for us to expand, again, the educational opportunity that we as a department supply to the public. Our Ag Crime Unit. I'm going to have our Ag Crime Unit guys stand up real quick. All right, so this is our Ag Crime Unit. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Yeah. Thank you, guys. So they have a new look. You know, they used to look like it was the SWAT team rolling in here, but now it looks like the friendly faces of the Ag Crime Unit. They've changed up their uniforms and also changed up, again, as I noted earlier, their reporting structure. So what I would encourage you all to do as employees, as folks that are out in the field, is recognize that we have these folks, and if and when needed, we want you all to utilize them. We never want anybody in their work capacity or in your private life either, but we certainly don't want you in your work capacity ever feel uncomfortable in a situation that you have to go into. And these guys are stationed all across the state. They each have a series of counties that they cover. And so at any point, if you ever have any concerns about a situation that you're going into, if you hear of farmers, producers that have been impacted by any type of criminality, whether that is arson, whether that's livestock theft, could be any number of different things. We have these guys here. So we've got them, we want to use them, we're trying to make them more public facing and give them a little bit more limelight to represent us as a department. Also, business development. So recently, Matthew Wade, who was our previous assistant commissioner, retired for the second time. So Matthew had already retired once, had an encore career with us at the Department of Agriculture, has stepped away. We're in the process of trying to find a new assistant commissioner for business development right now, and we had 123 applications, I believe, for that position. So we are wading through those, and hopefully we'll have a selection sometime in the very near future. Also, speaking of international travel, Christina Slater actually just walked in the back door. She's our international business consultant. Christina and also Dave Newman and I have been sort of around the world recently. Not too long ago, we were in India trying to sell Tennessee hardwood products, and then I was in Thailand 2 weeks after that, also selling Tennessee products. But business development has certainly put a lot more emphasis on international marketing recently, and you all are going to see the results of that, sort of when we go and where we go and what happens as a result of our travels there. And then also we're going to have a little update about the Pick Tennessee Products Program. So we have throughout time as a department utilized several different logos to talk about different products that we want to emphasize here in Tennessee, and we've really had a revelation that we really want to start drawing a lot of those sort of uniquely placed logos back into a cover of really Pick Tennessee products in general. And so you all might start seeing some of that. So instead of having a Tennessee Wood Products logo or a Tennessee Milk logo, we're going to start using the single logo, Pick Tennessee Products, as our kind of flagship promotional logo brand. And so you all will hear and see more about that as well. Also with CIS and technical services, so the transition of the hemp team is now complete and a RIF was not required. And so I would really like to say thanks to Dr. Travis and others who have worked on that. That was certainly, Patricia, certainly an effort to try to make sure that folks that were going to be unfortunately impacted by our loss of the hemp program were not going to be put out, and thankfully we found positions for all those folks. Do want to also say that our pesticide process, the recertification has gone extremely well. And right now we've had over 9,700 cards that have already been mailed. You can see there we're certainly going down the path of both commercial and private applicators. This is the first time that continuing education credits have been required for the private applicators, of which I am one, and I have not yet, Dr. Travis, done my continuing education, but I'm going to. All right. Also, annual license renewals and invoicing has kicked off smoothly, and just want to really say thanks to everybody in the CIS team who's had their hand in that. I think that's a lot of folks, and it's certainly taken a lot of effort for us to have these smooth rollouts, and certainly appreciate you all putting in the effort to see that happen. So with forestry, we do have a couple of updates. So forest protection, winter storm fern, many of you all, I know many of you all were impacted by winter storm fern since we weren't on campus for quite some time. But what you may not know is that the Division of Forestry was actually the largest, I believe, largest state network of support that was deployed to winter storm fern. And we actually had 16 counties that were supported. At its peak, we had 228 personnel that were deployed, and those 228 people cleared 2,896 miles of roadway, and they removed, I actually cut 2 of them, 9,521 trees as well. So I went down to give donuts to one of the crews that was working in Hardin County, and they actually put me to work, which I thought was great. But I just wanted to sort of brag on Division of Forestry for a moment, because those deployments are tough. I don't know if we have a lot of folks here from forestry at the moment, but we had several folks that went out and stayed out for quite some time. So I want to say thanks to them. And we had employees and we had others that were positively impacted by their work, and certainly have had a number of letters of appreciation from county mayors and emergency management districts and everybody else. So certainly appreciate them. Also, from a forestry management standpoint, so timber sale revenue to date, we've had 7 sales, $2,882,210. And that is money that comes back to the state in the form of forested materials that are removed from the landscape. And so this is something that we certainly take a lot of pride in with the Department of Agriculture, is that we actually generate revenue for the state in many cases. We also have 9 sales that are scheduled to be sold as well. And so we actually accrue a great deal of revenue from these sales. Also created and hired a new landscape conservation program specialist as well. And that is another one of those little pieces to the Division of Forestry that if you really get to looking, they're covering all the bases. And we certainly appreciate Heather and her leadership at the Division of Forestry. For grants and administration, and Paul is, again, our new Assistant Commissioner for Grants and Administration. And there is going to be a change of theory on how we operate budgets and how actively we manage our budgets here at the Department of Agriculture. So we're taking this new approach, and you may say, well, a new approach to government budgeting, how do you do that? Well, really, it's just going to be like some closer monitoring throughout the year. And you may say, oh, so more complication, more paperwork. No, it's really an effort to say the Department of Agriculture is receiving, again, that $337 million of revenue. And so what's the best way to utilize those funds? So what we've seen is that in times past, we've had pretty large amounts of money that really have gone unutilized. And so we're certainly going to try to make sure that funds that we have available to us as a department, we're making sure to apply that and leverage those funds as much as we possibly can. So trying to get better projections, better decisions, and then also try to keep from having sort of these year-end fixes that sometimes we've grown accustomed to. And so Paul is leading that along with Samantha Wilson. I want to say thanks to those folks along with several other folks in the division. And then also the grants management system. So many of you all have probably heard about this, but we are really close to incorporating a grants management system. And that's going to have an impact on lots of folks across the department. This is going to be a much better way for us to administer grants, not only from a standardization and a reporting standpoint, but also an accountability standpoint, an information standpoint. There's a lot of positives that are going to come from this. And then also sort of rehoming services back to TDA. Don't want to get too far down the path with this conversation, but what we're recognizing is that some of the services that we've outsourced to third parties, AKA other departments, some of those services we can actually provide for ourselves. And in an effort to not have to be dependent on another department, there's an active review right now of what services can we actually supply for ourselves. And if you all have suggestions on that, we're certainly open to hearing your suggestions. I'm going to have the employee comment form up here in just a moment. And then we also have a new horticulturist here at the Department of Agriculture. And so Jason, I believe, is with us. Where is Jason? All right, Jason, stand up, wave at everybody. So Jason's our new horticulturist. You all will start seeing, if you haven't already, a change in the horticultural sort of showing that we have here at the department. We have a beautiful campus, and so there's no reason for us to not use it as a showcase opportunity to show all of the beautiful horticultural products that are produced here in the state of Tennessee and also beautify our campus. So I want to say thanks to Jason. He's already started this process. He told me this morning, he said, if you think it looks good now, wait and see what it's going to look like in a year or two from now. So looking forward, no pressure, Jason, all right? But he certainly is a pro, and we're glad to have him on the team. All right, policy and legislation. Again, we talked about the Johnny Shaw innovation funding. And then post-session, we're going to be traveling across the state with members of the General Assembly. We're going to be hosting some groundbreakings and some ribbon cuttings, and we're going to try to do this for grant recipients that have received, whether it's Ag Track or whether it's Ag Enterprise Fund. If there are other grant opportunities across the department as well, we're going to be on the road. We're going to be showcasing these lawmakers, and also we're going to be showcasing agriculture, most importantly, and its value in those representatives or in those state senators' districts, so that they're very clearly understanding that agriculture is the biggest industry in the state of Tennessee. And with public affairs, so a lot of things going on with public affairs. A couple of things we'll highlight real quick. There are going to be new signature standards. Has that email already gone out? So you all have already seen the email. But what we'd like to do is to make sure that everybody and their signature is standardized in the way that the email was sent out. And so if you have any questions, please reply back to that email, especially managers. It's incumbent that you all are looking at the emails from your employees that are coming across to make sure that they meet those new standards. Obviously, with ADA compliance, this is something we've been working on for quite some time. Happy to report that actually the Department of Agriculture, if you took all of the departments from across the state, we're actually the highest performing in our response to ADA. So we have pretty much done all the full compliance. We thought we had to have it done by April 24th, and we got really close to that, and then they said, actually, we're going to extend that by a year. But we're going to go ahead and implement the ADA moving forward as if it was actually already put into place. So any documents, anything that's going to be public facing needs to have an ADA review, and we need to make sure that it meets the criteria that Maria and her team have established for all the documents that we're creating. So if you have questions, again, reach out to Maria or her team. Also, the museum is trying to be more engaged, and they're going to be opening up on Saturdays. I don't know that we have all of the details yet, Dr. G, but we are going to make sure that we're utilizing the museum as frequently as we possibly can, and would encourage you all to be participants and encourage your family to attend as well. We also have a new Ag Tag design. So we're going down the path of exploring, since the Ag Tag is now, is it 30 years old? 25 years old, it's never been changed. We're exploring the opportunity to potentially change the Tennessee Ag Tag that you can buy and put on your vehicle. So still contemplating that, still trying to gauge that with industry partners. And then we talked about the Pick Tennessee Products logo consolidation. You'll hear more about that as time goes on. Upcoming dates. This might be a place where you want to grab your phone and put some of these dates on your calendar. So the Century Farm reception is a reception for those folks who own farms that have been in their family for 100 years or more here in the state of Tennessee. And we have over 3,000 of those here in the state. It's kind of amazing. Also, our Division of Forestry is doing a pack test on June the 9th. I would love to say I'm really looking forward to this, but I don't really think that I am. But if you're not familiar with the pack test, I'm going to do it. It's 45-pound pack, 3 miles within 45 minutes, but you can't run. So you just have to walk really, really fast. There are 2 other levels as well, but we certainly thought, well, if we're doing it, if anybody else is interested in doing that physical fitness test, you're welcome to join us. Again, that's going to be on June the 9th. Farm to Fair Feast. This is a supplement that's going to happen ahead of the state fair this year. We're going to buy a couple of tables as a department. If you have interest in attending this, please reach out. You can contact me, Kerrigan, whoever else. Kerrigan, who would be best? Christina. Okay. Slater? Christina Slater is going to be your main contact for that. So right over here, if you're interested in joining us for that. Also the state fair, and we certainly want you to get this on your calendar. And it's the Year of Forestry. So we've never had a Year of Forestry before. It's going to be a great emphasis. I promise you will learn a lot about forestry and its importance and its value for us as a state. August 13th through 22nd. Also, our fall town hall. So this town hall, but the fall version, we've already got it set for October the 12th. Also, our farm day at Ellington, again, to be determined, but that will be sometime, I would assume, September, October. We'll have details about that as quickly as we can. Then also Ag Literacy Week. And so the reason why I have this on here is I really want to encourage any of you all who have a desire to have us supplement you with what we consider to be accurate agriculture literacy material. And we want to encourage you to go to, if your kids are in school, go to your school and read a book about agriculture during this week. What we're trying to do is recognize that we need to do, as folks who are in the agriculture industry, a better job of reaching out to kids early on. And so we want to equip you again with those books. We want to give you an opportunity to spend some of your time in trying to facilitate ag education. And so if you have an interest in that, please let us know. You can do that through the employee form that we're going to post, or you can reach out to me. And then also AgCon. So AgCon is sort of an expansion of the Pick Tennessee Products Conference that we had a lot of success with earlier this year. But AgCon is going to be a much larger event. It's going to have a lot more opportunity for us to demonstrate certifications, licensing, permit, continuing education, all the things that we do in agriculture. We're going to try to consolidate as many of those groups at one conference as we possibly can. We already have the dates on that. Again, that's February 17th through 21st. The name might actually change. We've just affectionately referred to it as AgCon since we don't have an official name at this point. All right, we have a woodworking contest. And we had one entry, okay? And we don't know who's going to be the winner, but we have a really strong suspicion. We had an opportunity for those folks to actually, for you all to vote, but since we only have one, I think we'll just nominate, who was it? Jason Upton? Jason Upton, we think. All right, Jason, stand up. All right. I'll make a motion that, nomination cease and we just elect Jason by acclamation as the winner. All right, so all in favor say aye. 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 All right, congratulations, Jason. You're the man. All right, good job. And so the reason why this is important is because of Winter Storm Fern, had a lot of trees get knocked down. We thought, what's the best way to try to utilize some of this lumber, do something with it? We might need to extend the contest, I think, maybe, and do it again. Details will be forthcoming on that if we decide to. All right, feedback. So we launched, I think, in the fall town hall, the opportunity for folks to provide feedback to us at the department, all right? And this is something that I not only think is important, I think it's something that's vital for me as the commissioner, for our executive leadership team to respond to the needs of our employees. And listen, if I haven't made it clear, we really appreciate the work that you're doing. We know, just like the 4-H motto, we think we're the best department out there, but you can always make the best a little bit better, all right? And so in our spirit of making the best better, we need to have your feedback. And so this is an opportunity for you to anonymously, now listen, this isn't open to the public. We're not going to go to Kroger and ask folks to give feedback on the Department of Agriculture. But those of you all that are here, and I'm going to share the QR code in just a moment, we want to hear your feedback. And so since we've had this open for the last couple of months, what we've seen is workplace morale and leadership, okay? If we just sort of group these into patterns. Pay equity and workload, all right? AWS policy confusion, and we know that there has been some, but then we also recognize there's been some willful confusion on the part of a couple of folks, if we're being honest. Process transparency, and then also positive recognition. And so you can see how that's broken down. So we had about 30% that were just straight kudos, just people saying, hey, I just want to say this person's doing a great job. And it's really heartwarming to hear those because when we read them, we recognize the sincerity. And I don't think those are people that are writing about themselves, but who knows? You never know. Again, it is anonymous in many cases. Also, 10% were just kind of suggestions, just things of like, hey, have you ever considered this? And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have the form out there is because we want to hear your suggestions and your concerns. So 60% were concerns, all right? And that's fine. I don't want anybody to say, well, maybe we're, oversaturating the concerns. You're not. We want to hear back from you. So, Liz has got a lot written down here. But in essence, what we're trying to do is we're trying to gauge this information, respond to it as best we possibly can. All right. Here's the QR code. So I'm going to turn over to a question slide, but I'm going to end on this particular feedback form QR code as well. And again, we want to hear back from you all, okay? If you have concerns, if you have kudos, if you have whatever you want to say, whether anonymous or whether you want to put your name on it, that's why this is here, all right? So again, we're getting really close to about time to eat, but we did want to open it up for questions. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask while we're at our town hall? Yes, sir, Mr. Woodworking Winter.
Have you seen the carving?
I have not.
You need to look at it.
All right. Well, my eyesight fails me a little bit, but it looks really intricate. So, but yes, we're going to look at it since it's the number one, okay? Oh, I'm on it. Oh. I think I would have chosen another model. All right, any questions? I know I'm standing between y'all and lunch. Going once. Going twice. All right, sold. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Kerrigan, but before I do that, I wanted to take a moment, and I think you all have on your tables a reference to Junior Chef. Junior Chef is an opportunity for students to engage and learn about healthy food preparation and things of that nature. We're really focused on this State Fair Challenge. And what I would encourage y'all to do is if you have students, if you have kids yourself, or you have nieces, nephews, other students that you know of that have an interest in this type of culinary artistry, we certainly want you all to be a part of that. We're having, to be honest, a little bit of a tough time gaining interest, and that's part of the reason why we have such a large crowd. We want to make you aware of it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful assistant, Kerrigan. So Kerrigan, take it away.